Hey everyone, it's Pittico from Daydream Nation, and I've got John the Music Nut back to the channel. How are you, my mate?
I'm doing great, Peter. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Today we are going to do a show about 5 of our favorite rock songs that do not go any longer than 3 minutes. Now, this is an extraordinarily tough assignment. All genres, all eras. So, John, without further ado, would you like to pick your first selection?
Thank you, Peter. So, when we were first talking about doing this, we weren't talking about 3 minutes. We were talking about two. And then Peter said, okay, let's go three. But I already had one in my head. A 1 minute and 45-second ditty of power pop bliss by a band that's not considered power pop. Now, if you'd like to dig further into this band, I talk about this band with bicycle legs on his wonderful channel, his wonderful YouTube channel, and it is The Jam. The album is Sound Effects, and the song is But I'm Different Now. This is power pop bliss. As I said, you're just really getting into the song and it's over, but it just works perfectly at 1 minute and 45 seconds. You don't have a guitar solo in here, but it's catchy as sin. Paul Weller, another one of his gems here. I mean, the whole band sounds fantastic. This is my favorite album by them too, by the way, Sound Effects, although their catalog is a treasure of riches. And I'm going to go 5-1 here, so that'll be my number 5, but I'm Different Now by The Jam.
Yeah,
1980.
I'm going to be bloody difficult and just not rank it. It's just going to be 5. Oh, geez, struggle enough getting 5, John. I'm just going to just put 5 out there. I'm not going to rank them. But you can go 5-1. That's fine.
Thank you.
Great pick. The Jam are a bit of a head scratch. Never really translated beyond UK. They had a minor hit in Australia with a town like Malice.
A town called Malice.
A town called Malice. But in America, they could barely get arrested. So very much a sort of a British phenomenon. Didn't really translate well. But Paul Weller, with his next band, the Style Council, were much more a success with that new soul groove. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Great pick.
Thank you.
All right. I am going to go back in time to 1965, Drive My Car. I love that song.
Nice.
It's the opening track on the UK version of Rubber Soul, and I believe it's on the North American version of Yesterday and Today. It's a cracker of an opener. I love the lyrics. It's classic John Lennon wordplay. It's a song about a girl who tells a guy that she's going to be famous. He can drive my car. The twist in the song is that she reveals, I don't really have a car. So drive my car is kind of blues slang for sex. So there's a little bit of a connotation through it. It's humorous, it's sharp, it's on point, and the musicology of it is just wonderful. This band in 1965 was certainly, they were playing tight. They had all the chops. McCartney's beautiful bass lines right to the fore. He actually also plays piano, kind of slightly not honky tonk style, but it sort of rollicks around, and that was like an overdub. Harrison's searing guitar leads. I mean, you can hear a Harrison lead. Close your eyes and that's Harrison. He's just got that distinct personality. And Ringo Starr, he swings, and he's got the little cowbell. So, there's just so many components to this song, and it's a gem, and it all comes in less, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. John, I want to throw it to you. Do you think it'd be easier for a band to write a short song, or easier to write a long song? I was just contemplating that in the scheme of this whole project that we're putting together.
In my opinion, it's harder to write a short song these days because you're worried about repeating other ideas, and you're worried about repeating a riff that has been used so many times before. And I think that's one of the reasons you don't hear a lot of short songs anymore, let alone great short songs, because so much has been done. By 1965, not a lot had been done in rock and roll at that point.
Yeah, well, I think it's because the Beatles were so disciplined, and McCartney
No
and
doubt.
Lennon had that yin and yang, that discipline when they were writing songs to self-edit, and it just came out as being short, sweet, to the point. It's only when maybe 1967 onwards that they started to explore and there were longer songs. But anyway, sorry, meandering a little bit. Drive My Car by the Beatles. That's my first pick.
Fantastic choice. I mean, you could go with so many from the Beatles, but
so
you know, that's one of the finest ones right there. I mean, very catchy, and it rocks as a lyric that we can identify with. I mean, it's one of those songs. It's what we call an earworm now. I mean, you hear it the first time, it's stuck. It's there. It ain't going anywhere.
Is it there now? A little bit in your head?
Yeah, exactly. It was in my head when I was a kid, and it's still there. There you go.
All right. What's your next pick?
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go with a band who wrote some great short songs in the 90s, and they were an adult. They are an adult alternative band. That's what they're called. They had a few hits here in the States, and they broke up, and then they've gotten back together, and they're putting out albums again, and they're out touring, and it's Toad the Wet Sprocket. Now, this band was pretty popular in the 90s. They got hits on the rock stations, but they also crossed over to the adult contemporary format too. I mean, their music was it was very universal. I mean, because they had good hooks, their songs can rock, but they had mellower parts as well. I mean, they made some really great albums in the 90s. This is from Coil. This was their last album before they broke up. And the song I'm going to go with is the opening track called Whatever I Fear. Now, what was really great about Toad the Wet Sprocket is their merging of the acoustic guitars with the electric guitars. They were wonderful craftsmen with songs. Len Phillips was a fantastic singer, and he wrote all these great songs when he was very young. I mean, this was their fifth album, and by this point he was 27, and he'd already put out some great songs. I mean, he was their primary songwriter. But Whatever I Fear is a fantastic track. It's got a catchy chorus, a very great hook in the guitar riffs as well. And there's a lot of songs on here that are around 3 minutes that are very catchy as well. And this album, they went a little harder. It bombed here in the States. Like, it debuted high, and then it just fell off the charts because there weren't any hit singles off it. But I don't think this album was marketed very well at all, because in my opinion, Coil is my favorite album by them. And for the longest time, it was Fear, which was the breakout album here in the States, because All I Want and Walk on the Ocean were really huge hits. But over time, I think this album has aged so well. I love this album to death. This is Coil, and the song is Whatever I Fear. Toad the Wet Sprocket, 1997.
Thank you. I don't know anything about this band. They zero presence in Australia, so might have been one of those ones that just didn't transfer across the Pacific. But I have one of their songs. They're on that Kiss cover album that was brought out in the 90s. I think they did a version of a Kiss song. That's my limited
Rock
knowledge
and Roll
of
All Night.
Yes, it was kind of like a country version of it.
It sounds like the way Toad would do it. I don't think they picked the right song, in my opinion, to put on that album. But when you listen to it, it's like, oh yeah, it sounds like Toad. But they never. Well, on this album they rock hard, but they never really rock like Kiss. So, especially in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I think they might have, in my opinion, I think that's not a good description of who Toad are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your description of that song, and I'll certainly check it out. And yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm going to go to 1967. So this guy is the pioneer of electric rock guitar heroes. And I just have to say Jimi Hendrix and Purple Haze. This is off the Are You Experienced album. It's 2 minutes 46 seconds of fuzz, psychedelic, decadent guitar playing. It's dirty, it's raw, it's metallic, and everything in this song lays the foundations of rock, heavy metal, grunge, anything that is electrified. You can take it back to this as being one of the footstones of modern rock. He has all his tricks, the distortion, the feedback. Listen to it on the headphones. It's just an outstanding sonic experience. Even like 50 odd years later, you've got him on the right-hand side with his vocals, and the left-hand side, you've got the band playing with Noel Redding and his bass, and Mitch Mitchell on the drums. And the production of Chaz Chandler is just outstanding. It's just a remarkable production in sound. The separation of the instruments, it's organic, it feels live. What does it lyrically mean? Jimmy said that there was a lady that put a voodoo spell on him. It's compelling. Whatever it means, it could be gibberish, but a mixture of sound and words, it's compelling. And it's just a masterpiece of, in rock. Not much more I can say. Went to number 3 in Britain, and this was the song that really created or started the legend of Jimi Hendrix. And yeah, I had to put it in less than 3 minutes. Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix.
Wonderful song. I mean, I've loved that song for nearly 40 years, and I've had the CD for nearly as long as that. What a timeless album by Jimi Hendrix. I mean, that's
Are You Experience. It's one of the great rock albums of all time. But there's just so much happening in that song, the Purple Haze song. You just,
no doubt,
every time you listen to it, you hear something, whether it's Jimmy whispering or he's mumbling something. It all comes together. It's just like a potpourri of all these different effects, but it works. And his guitar technique, where he's taking it right up the fretboard. It's like, I don't know whether Chaz in the how interactive he was with the band, but it's like he's saying more. It's like pushing it more. But
Absolutely.
Jimmy. And it's really funny. I've got some friends that think Jimi Hendrix is quite boring. I can't work it out.
No, he never was boring.
They are the most contrarian folk. Jimi Hendrix is the start, folks.
He is.
He is the start.
He is. I mean, and you look at those 3 albums he made with the original Experience. I mean, you saw a quantum leap. Each one, and as far as creativity, I mean, the simplest songs and the ones that are the most radio friendly are on that first album, but they were creatively were increasing by leaps and bounds. By Electric Ladyland, they didn't even sound like the same without Jimmy's vocal and guitar. They would sound like the same band because they were going in all these different directions, really deep into psychedelia. But yeah, those first 3 albums are another treasure of riches right there, and Purple Haze started it all.
It just sounds so fresh and relevant. It doesn't sound like dated. Like, you listen to some 60s music and you see, okay, it's very much a time capsule of that era. But to me, it sounds modern and it's exciting. And that's what makes great music. Classic rock, good classic rock is ageless and is not dated. And this is just great classic rock. One more thing I wanted to say about Jimmy's vocals. He was very hard on himself. He didn't think he was a great vocalist. And actually, when he was in the studio, he used to turn his back and sing the lyrics. He's not a bad vocalist. He's a conversationalist. He's a bit like Phil Lynott, where to me, I think Jimmy's talking to me. he's not singing, but he's got that delivery, which is kind of like spoken. But it all works. It's just brilliance.
Anyway. Very underrated vocalist, in my opinion. He was so soulful.
Yes. But he was very insecure. He did not like how he sang. And that's a total head scratch. So it's amazing. Some of these biggest artists, but they've got all these little insecurities.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. All right, Purple Haze. That's my number 2. Not necessarily ranking, but just a favorite rock track, less than 3. What's your next one, mate?
All right, thank you. So just to let y'all know, in my 5 selections, I'm not going as far back as the 60s, just to say that. But I'm going to talk about a band who they were great, and they unfortunately couldn't get along very well. So they gave us 5, actually I'd say 7 albums, and 5 of them were great. And it's Husker Du, and the album is Warehouse Songs and Stories. This is their last album from 1987. Thank you, Peter. And the song I'm going with is Could You Be the One?
Great song.
Oh my gosh.
Right. About time. I want to do a show on Husker Du, and I've been leading up to that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I love this band.
We'll do something on Husker Du, don't you worry. But one of the great songs. Carry on, my friend. Carry on.
Oh, thank you very much. Could You Be the One was probably the closest thing they had in the States to a popular song. Now, they got played a lot on college radio, but they never really broke into the mainstream here. But the people who liked them loved them. They were 2 fantastic songwriters in this trio of musicians. And Bob Mould has made so many great albums since then, still out there touring. His album, Blue Hearts from 2020, was one of the best albums of the year, in my opinion. Now, the thing with Husker Du is they'd always try to split their songs up. This album's 20 minutes. It was a 2-record set. But most of the tracks on here are like between 3 and 4 minutes. You had a few under 3. Could You Be the One is, I mean, if we weren't so focused on image and putting things in a box, this could have been a great hit single back in the 80s. But by then, everything was MTV, image, wasn't about craftsmanship. And you got 2 craftsmen in this band with their songwriting skills. Could You Be the One was they actually were on the Joan Rivers show in the late 80s. Joan Rivers had her own late night talk show to compete with Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson never spoke to her again because until then they were good friends.
I remember that.
Yeah. They performed on the Joan Rivers show, and they did Could You Be the One on the show, and it went over. I mean, it was just a great song.
Yeah.
Great band that not enough people heard. They might be more popular now. I mean, there's just some bands that got more popular when people discovered them later. I didn't know them until, 87. I wasn't listening to Husker Du. I was listening to, like Rat and Motley Crue and Kiss and AC/DC and stuff like that. I only found this band in my 30s. But another great catalog. Their first 2 albums, not so much, because they were hardcore, but then they went and they found their sweet spot with their punk meets pop sound. They're very influential too. They're a lot
100%.
of very influential. You listen to a band like Green Day or The Offspring, they were highly influenced by bands like Husker Du. So go with Could You Be the One? It's my number 3 from Warehouse Songs and Stories. Fantastic album, fantastic band.
Great. A couple of points. I think Warner Brothers didn't know how to market them.
Yes,
which was disappointing. They were very much in the college music charts, so very much on the alternative. Rolling Stones did champion them, but they just did not seem to break through in the MTV age where image was everything. And they were doomed because the interpersonal politics. I mean, when you've got 2 figureheads that are quite alpha male at loggerheads with each other, it was kind of a doomed project, which is quite a shame. I've got a soft spot for Candy Apple Grey, folks. Please check out that album. It's
fantastic.
I'll just pre-warn everyone that'll be on Rock Daydream Nation before the end of this year. We'll definitely do, and I'll get John the Music Nut. We'll do a little bit of a focus on that album. But great band, need to be spotlighted, and I don't think they get spoken about as like some other bands. They kind of are a little bit forgotten, unfortunately. Highly influential. Well done.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going in a sort of a date order. So I'm going to go to a band that came out. They formed in 1969, very prolific, lots of lineup changes. This song came out, I believe, in 1972, and I'm talking about Uriah Heep and Easy Living.
Nice.
This was written by Ken Hensley, clocks in at 2 minutes and 39. It's a Hammond organ masterpiece. The organ drives it along. You've got Lee Kerslake on the drums doing this little shuffle, and it's got this energy, this rolling shuffle energy that moves it along. Apparently the lyrics, Ken Hensley was with a mate and he was walking down the street, and Ken Hensley's mate told him, look at us, this is like easy living. This song has been covered by the Dickies, Wasp, even James Last, the German orchestra maestro, and it featured in the movie Dog Day Afternoon. A little bit of trivia. I think it's one of their finest songs by Uriah Heep, and there would be a riot in the streets if they didn't play it in the song set today. It's been a staple. But it was their highest charting song in America. I think it went to number 39. Frankly, it should have done much better. But it's a masterpiece. So, Easy Living by Uriah Heep.
Excellent choice. It was the first song I ever heard by Uriah Heep, because one through Wasp on the Inside the Electric Circus album from '86, and I believe when I was 16 or 17, I bought this compilation CD called Electric 70s, and it was on there. So that was when I first heard the Uriah Heep version, because they didn't get played much here on album-oriented rock, surprisingly. They were more of they had their early success, but by the time you had album-oriented rock really hit its fruition in the late 80s and early 90s, you didn't hear much Uriah Heep. You'd hear Stealin' once in a while. You'd hear Easy Living once in a while, but very little, which is a shame, because they put out a lot of great albums that I'm just starting to discover recently.
Prolific.
It's a band. Yes, they're very prolific. And was David Byron singing on this one, Peter?
Yeah, David Byron was singing on it, and I love his vocals. Some folk don't. When he goes into that very high falsetto, they think it's a little bit exaggerated, a little bit campy, but I actually love it. And that's another highlight of the song, where he does he goes into the chorus and he just does this wonderful falsetto, and it just matches with the band. It's really sad when you look at the lineup of Uriah Heep, this particular lineup, because there was multiple lineups, and most of the band are dead. Ken Hensley, R.I.P., Lee Kerslake, Gary Fane, the bass player, and David Byron, which is just a tragic story. He died really young, I think in 1982, 83. So real tragedy. But I think the big issue for Uriah Heep is that they were pushed to put out a lot of albums in a short space of time. There was a lot of wear and tear on them with the endless touring. And it was symptomatic with a lot of bands in those days, like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. They were absolutely flogged, but it put a little bit of a strain on them, either through substance abuse, interpersonal politics, and they had multiple lineup changes. And I really think when you have multiple lineup changes, you lose some of the chemistry.
Yes.
And whatever momentum you had, because this little lineup had a bit of a commercial peak, Demons and Wizards, A Magician's Birthday,
Yes.
a live album, and it was only in a space of 2 years. And then, further lineup changes, and, it's like a step back and you've got to start all over again. So
Exactly.
anyway, Easy Living. That's my pick.
Very good selection. Now, the band I'm going to talk about now, fortunately, we still have all the original members with us, and 3 of them are still in the band. And it's a band that's been talked song and verse on a lot of these channels, and it's Cheap Trick. And I love this band. This is my favorite album. It's the self-titled debut. Now they have a second album that's self-titled 1997. That album's very good as well. The song I'm going to go with is Hot Love. Hot Love rocks like hell. It's very, very fast. You got a great vocal performance from Robin Zander here. It just grabs you by the throat, and it doesn't let go for the 2 minutes and 30 seconds that it goes on. This album is I like to say, treasure of riches. Did not sell very well early on. It took them 3 albums, or the live album, for them to really break through live at Budokan. But this is a 10 out of 10. Their first 3 albums are 10 out of 10s for me. They already had the great songs there because they were writing for years, and Rick Nielsen was writing for years and years. And this more power populist again, Hot Love, Cheap Trick, 1977.
Oh, great song. Great song. I love Cheap Trick. I think their glory run was right up to maybe All Shook Up. And then after that, it was patchy, to be quite frank. They would put out some good material. I know there's some folk on other channels, which I won't mention, that are very much in the Cheap Trick, have done some masterpieces or great albums since. But no, I'm of the view that All Shook Up is probably the beginning of the, jumping the shark. Dream Police is the last great album in my books. But that era is just timeless, and that's what they built their reputation on. And unfortunately, they just seem to have this perennial second tier band status, where they should be regarded at the front tier, right up at the top. They should be regarded as a headliner, not as a third bill in a concert scenario. Power pop, hard rock, heavy metal. There's been so many people that have been touched by Cheap Trick, and that's a great song. Really, really good. The next song I'm going to pick they are the kings of the snappy 2-minute punk song, and they always used to have I've got to put a Ramones song, so I've got to put I Wanna Be Sedated. This is 2 minutes and 29 seconds of just pure joy. Off the Road to Ruin album, 24 hours to go, I Want to Be Sedated. It was written about when they were in London. Their tour manager was flogging them. They were just doing 300 days a year, just touring. And they found themselves in London on Christmas Day. Nowhere was open, nothing to do. They're in a hotel room watching the Guns of Navarone. Oh, dear. And this was just prior to them doing their live album, the Ramones. Yeah, the Ramones.
It's alive.
Yeah, it's a live album.
Yeah.
So out of this boredom, they wrote this song. So I like the lyrics. It just kicks out at the mundane. It's about insulating yourself from modern life, and I think it's a great song. It's really strangely uplifting, and it's got an anthem feel to it, and it's one of their very, very famous songs. I think the common rock fan would recognize this song and recognize it's a Ramones song. So along with Blitzkrieg Bop, but it's certainly up there. So I Want to Be Sedated is my pick, and that's from the Ramones, 1977.
Excellent pick. That is the song that is most well known in the States. It's the song that the cover band, like the cover bands who played at bars, would play I Want to Be Sedated my old band used to play on a piece of data. It's like it's easy song to play, but it's a fun song to play. Yeah. I mean, it's again, there's another band. First 3-4 albums, great. And they might be more popular now than ever, but during their lifetime, they never had a gold album. And I mean, now they're more known for people wearing Ramones shirts. Yeah. But their catalog, I mean, again, wasn't always great, but those first 4 spectacular albums.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot to the 80s catalog, and, there are some undiscovered gems in that album that a lot of people should revisit. They seem to have a little bit of an uptick in the 80s with Pet Sematary. Remember they did a little bit of it. You started to see their songs being played on MTV or a lot of the commercial video shows because they did a little bit of a tie-in. And then not much at all. They came out to Australia a fair bit. They did the big day out, the festival circuit. Nice. I saw them a couple of times. They're just fantastic live. There's absolutely no fat, no, straight to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah. It's 60 minutes of the most fun you'll ever have at a concert. They just zip through about 40 songs. It's great. There's no wankery at all. It's just right through it. So, but I think it's one of their greatest songs. I Want to Be Sedated. 2 minutes and 29 seconds of pure punk bliss.
Absolutely. One of my bigger concert regrets is not seeing them. And they did come close here when I was in my 20s. And I had friends that went and said it was nothing like it. They just blew them away.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All right. And
number
now,
5.
Number 5, number 1, however you want to count it.
5, 1.
5 to 1, 1 and 5. There you go. So this man, he is the man. He made 2 great albums in 1979. And then after this, he became a very restless artist. He's one of the most restless artists of our lifetime. Was a fantastic musician. This is his debut album. This is Joe Jackson. And the album is Look Sharp. And the song is Got the Time, which is the last song on the album. This is about 2 minutes and 38 seconds, but it's pretty heavy for a power pop song. So much so that Anthrax covered this on their 1990 album, Persistence of Time, and they kept it at the same tempo. You don't want to mess with success. They just made it a little crunchier. It's, they just stuck to the original and just made it a little crunchier. That's all they could do. And a new generation, a heavy metal generation, discovered the song. Just great. Look Sharp is one of the great power pop albums of all time. And he wasn't just a power pop guy. He also liked to dabble in reggae, like much of the bands like to do there in the late 70s. But this album, the second album, I'm the Man, are killer. 10 out of 10s for me. But Got the Time is a killer. And there you go. There's my number 5 or 1.
I'm familiar with the song. I don't have that album. I will get it. And I like Joe Jackson. I've got a lot of his stuff. I just don't have that album. So,
this is killer. Yeah. This is the one with Is She Really Going Out When Him was his first big hit here in the States. But there's other great, like Sunday Papers got played a lot. One More Time got played a lot. But every song on here is a killer. There's a lot of songs under here under 3 minutes that just, they just come in, again, just grab you by the throat. They're just killer. But craftsmanship, he was a spectacular. He is a spectacular songwriter, Joe Jackson.
He is, and his peak was in the 80s, and he's actually one of those artists we could have done on that show where he was bigger outside his homeland. I think he was bigger in the States than he was in the UK, to be quite frank, with Night and Day. Night and Day went multi-platinum, and that was played all on MTV. And
it was
a lot of subsequent albums. He always shapeshifts his style. So he'll do the New York jazz album, and then he'll do a samba album, and he is a musically curious artist.
He is.
He just doesn't stay put. So that early stuff where it's very punky, and I mean post-punk, new wave, you compare it with, late 80s, early 90s, completely different. So,
right.
Yeah,
they're completely different.
Nice pick.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to finish it off with a song which it only clocks in at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. I think it was one of their very few hits in America. It was a big hit in the UK. They were part of the Britpop movement. So the song starts off with metronomic drums, a very metronomic drum beat, 2 drum kits to be quite frank, electric guitar strumming, and then it goes into a chorus of woo-hoo.
I thought you were going there.
I don't know if I did the woo-hoo very good, but when I feel heavy metal, song 2 by Blur.
Yeah.
It's lyrics about nonsense, but it is just such a lot of fun. It's great, and you play it and you want a pogo. It's just on the dance.
Yep.
It's just great. It was written apparently by the band when they had a bit of a hangover. They struggled through writing it. It's got this wonderfully delicious sludgy riff and guitar sound. It was originally sort of the whole concept was, doing a bit of a parody of grunge, your Nirvanas, your Mudhoneys, your Soundgardens. But, it comes out as 2 minutes and 2 seconds of just sheer fun and exuberance. So song 2 by Blur is my last pick for great rock songs less than 3 minutes.
I forgot that song was so I forgot that song was so short. But that was probably the most popular song they had here in the States. I mean, that was you couldn't avoid that song for a little while. It's a great song.
And I'll go on record. I think Damon Albarn is kind of up there at the genius level of songwriting. He's so wildly creative. I mean, there were so many great talents that came out of Britpop. I've done a show on Suede with Brett Anderson, Jarvis Cocker, but Damon Albarn, he's just wonderful. And new album out, Blur. I will probably do that on Rock Daydream Nation at some stage. But if you want to have a little bit of, sludgy fuzz guitar, song 2, that's the one.
Absolutely. Awesome.
And that was a hit over there, wasn't it?
I don't know where it charted, but it was all over the radio. You heard it all the time. You heard it all the time.
That's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So we went through our selections. So you got any honorables?
Yeah. Honorable mentions. Throw me some honorable mentions.
King's X. This is their 6th album, Ear Candy. They're a soulful rock band with prog leanings. They never crossed over here in the States. They have a very strong cult following to this day. They're still playing theaters here in the States to this day. They still have the same original guys to this day. This is their 6th album from 1996. The song I'm going to go with, though, was a little different for them. It's called Looking for Love. This sounds like the best song Led Zeppelin didn't record. It's got a riff to die for. It's very straight ahead and heavy. You hear that great 12-string bass of Doug Pinnick right up in the mix. His soulful vocals on here. He's a soulful vocalist, but here he's a lot more menacing than usual. And the guys just bring it on this. This just clocks in under 3 minutes. This is 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Looking for Love by King's X off of the Ear Candy album, 1996.
Yeah, well, that's another band that I need to go down that wheelhouse. I've got one of their albums. They're okay, but yeah, maybe I need to explore more of their albums just to get a feel whether I like them or not. I've got some other honorable mentions, and I'm not going to go into great detail. Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin, one of the greatest opening vocals. It's like really a call to arms. I love that off Led Zeppelin 3. Can't Stand Losing You by The Police. I love those.
Nice.
Witty black lyrics, black humor lyrics of Sting. And Friday on My Mind by the Easy Beats. Just fantastic power pop or jangly rock.
Fantastic
or beat pop, whatever. All three can be applicable. Have you got any others?
Before I go into my others, that was their only big hit here in the States. How big were they in Australia? I really don't know.
Huge. They were like Australian version of the Beatles. They were massive.
Okay.
Multiple top 5, top 10 hits. In the UK, they went over. That was already really their big hit. I think that hit number 6. But yeah, the legend of Vanda and Young was born out of this band, and their influence on music and rock is just you can't measure it. But that song is just perfect. It's bliss. It's got these little Baroque little guitar lines and just the harmonies and the lyrics. Just working through the week, and I've got Friday on my mind. It's just got a timeless quality to it, and it makes me feel happy. It's just one of those songs that just you listen to it and you feel uplifted. But they were huge. So that was the Australian version of the Beatles, the Easy Beats.
Excellent. All right, thank you for that, because I've been, as soon as you brought them up, I was like, I gotta ask that question. So the only other ones I'm going to have, Neil Young and Crazy Horse off of their Great Ragged Glory album, one of my 2 or 3 favorite albums by Neil Young. I'm going to go with a song called White Line. Now, this is the second song off the album. This just clocks in under 3 minutes. It's probably more like 2:45, but there's like a lot of feedback at the end. But this is a great song, very straight ahead. Neil Young wrote this back in the 70s. Which he did with a lot of his songs. He would write them and then re-record them much later. But excellent track off a wonderful album. And the album was Ragged Glory from 1990. And my last, well, you could go with several by this band, but I'm going to go with the song Commotion by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Now, John Fogerty, along with Lennon and McCartney, I believe was the master of the 2-minute hit single. He struck gold for about 4 years with all these fantastic songs that were 3 minutes or less. Commotion is the hardest hitting one. This is like borderline heavy metal. This is metal before they had a name for it. But John's vocal on here is even grittier than it usually is. It's just a killer track. I think it hit number 14 here in the States. I believe it may have been a B-side that went up the charts after the original, whatever the A-side was, I'm not sure. But Commotion's a killer track. And I'll give you one more by CCR. You can't go wrong with Fortunate Son, which is one of their most enduring tracks. It was a huge hit in the States, and you still hear it a lot to this day. Fantastic song. So there you go.
Nice. And that's a nice finish to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, the Music Nut. So this was a really tough assignment to pick 5 songs, 5 great songs out of the, endless list of, pop or rock masterpieces, less than 3 minutes. But I certainly think that we've picked some really, really good songs. You can see John the Music Nut on My Music Corner and the Contrarians. And please like and subscribe to this little channel rock Daydream Nation. Tell us what your favorite songs, less than 3 minutes rock songs. Tell us what you think of our selections. Please like and subscribe. But one thing's certain, you'll see me and John on a show on this channel real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.